Hi, mathematicians, and welcome to Module 4, Lesson 4. Let's go ahead and begin with our objective today. Please repeat after me. Today I'll be able to identify, define, and draw parallel lines. So today we're going to be identifying parallel lines, and as a guide, I need you to have your right angle template with you. I simply took a sheet of paper. I have my nice corner for my right edge, my 90-degree angle, and I just curved and cut the rest of the paper off to make this smaller to use. So I'm going to need this as my template today to identify parallel lines. I'm also going to want to define what parallel lines are. So today in your notes, be ready to define what are parallel lines. And then we're also going to draw images and decide are they parallel or aren't they. And we're going to think about the difference between parallel and perpendicular lines today as well. So either a whiteboard and marker like I have today, or if you're using a pencil and paper or your Zearn Module 4 notes, please just make sure you have somewhere to follow along with us today. And let's get started, mathematicians. Here we go.
What's up, mathlete? Let's start our day with some math exercises. Model array. Now, in the other direction.
Follow along, Scholar.
Model a line. A point. Model a right angle.
Great, 90 degrees.
Nice job. Let's start Zearn.
All right, scholars, do the lines make any angles? So with a straight edge, I'm going to go ahead and anything that's straight. If you have a ruler at home, that's great. I know I don't, so I'm going to use this whiteboard eraser, and I've got a nice straight line here that I'm going to go ahead and draw these two lines. I've got 1, 2 lines, and I've got arrows on either side of these lines. Make sure we can see those. And I can tell they extend in each direction. Now, these lines, if I were to extend them, that means make them longer, they would keep going. To me, they look like roads that are side by side. They look like train tracks. And I want us to think about these two lines and how they are never coming together. They are never touching. And that's something that we're going to think about when we are identifying differences today between parallel and perpendicular lines. So as we look at these, we're deciding, do these lines make any angles? Now, with my straight edge, I don't have any angles here because I don't have any lines that are perpendicular or intersecting. So I'm going to go ahead and click no. Great.
Lucas, how did you draw your lines?
Like this.
Nice. Do the lines touch?
No, even if they continued, they would never touch.
Great.
What else did you notice?
They're not perpendicular because they don't make right angles. They don't make any angles because they don't touch.
That's right. You've discovered parallel lines. Two lines that never touch, no matter how far you extend them, are parallel.
So scholars, let's go ahead and stop right there and let's jot down that definition that we just heard, and let's define parallel lines. In your notes, please write two lines that never touch. Two lines that never touch. Like two roads, two lanes on the highway. Two sides of a train track. They keep going, but they never, ever touch. Okay, let's go ahead and continue, scholars.
Check out this letter W. Are these diagonal segments of letter W parallel?
Okay, when I look at that letter W, I saw that in the letter W, we had these two lines. Now these two lines, if they were to keep going, would never touch, so yes, they are parallel. However, I see two line segments in our screen right now, A, B, and C, D. So I'm going to go ahead and draw those. I noticed that AB is a straight line, and I noticed that CD is slightly curved, and that D is pointing up. If I were to extend B and extend D, I see that these two lines would intersect or touch, and therefore they are not parallel.
Sophie?
This diagonal line segment and this diagonal line segment are parallel, because if you extend both lines, they'll never touch each other.
That's right. What about these?
They aren't parallel.
Why not? I don't see an intersection. Sophie?
If you made each one longer, they'd run into each other and intersect off to the right.
That's right. When we're looking for parallel lines, we have to think about whether the lines will ever touch each other, not just in the part we can see. Now, you guys know I love taking pictures when I'm exploring New York. Let's check out some lines in my pictures. Can you guys help me find parallel lines in these photos?
All right, scholars, so let's take a look here. Let's look at A. In A, I see 3 columns, and I see lines on either side of those columns that are 2 lines that would never touch. In B, I see the top of almost like a steeple part of a building, and I see 2 lines that do touch at the top, so they would not be parallel. And C, I see this yogi sitting on some steps, meditating, making the most of his day. And I see on those steps that these steps are horizontal lines, and lines that if they were to continue on would never touch. So I think A and C have parallel lines. Let's check it out.
Lucas, where'd you see parallel lines?
The pillars in the first photo are parallel. Even if we extend them, they never intersect.
That's right. Sophie, how about the church steeple?
Those line segments in the steeple aren't parallel. If we extended them, they would intersect. But the stairs are parallel.
Nice job, guys.
Wonderful. Let's continue.
Let's use the word parallel in sentences to describe what we've observed about parallel lines so far.
So are these sentences true? And think about parallel lines, 2 lines that never touch. We see one example here, one example in our W, and one example of what parallel lines are not. So let's read the first one. Parallel lines are side by side without touching. Correct, they never touch. Parallel lines are perpendicular. Well, scholars, if you think back to our last lesson, we learned that perpendicular lines do intersect. So perpendicular lines are 2 straight lines that have 90-degree angles. So yes, perpendicular lines touch, but parallel lines do not. So that is going to go ahead and be false. And our last sentence, parallel lines are always the same distance away from each other. Let's think about this. In this parallel set of lines, the distance is the same throughout. So we're looking at the distance here. Is the distance the same? Yes. Here, these parallel lines, the distance is the same. So we're going to say that this is true. Wonderful. Let's keep going, scholars.
Lucas, what have you noticed about parallel lines?
They are side by side and never touch.
That's right. Sophie, anything else?
They're always the same distance away from each other.
Nice observations.
So let's go ahead and add to our notes what our Zearners added. We know there are 2 lines that never touch. They are side by side, and we're going to add that they are the same distance apart. As we just identified here, they are the same distance apart, which is why they never cross. Great. Pause if you need more time. Let's dive into our lesson.
Are these lines parallel?
Let's think. Are they two lines that never touch? Are they side by side? Are they the same distance apart? Then yes, they are parallel.
Select the lines to mark them as parallel.
Okay, let's click one line and two lines to mark them as parallel.
Since the two lines are the same distance from each other at all points, we know that they're parallel. On the grid paper in your notes, use your straight edge to draw a rectangle A, B, C, D like mine.
Okay, so let's take a moment and draw this in our note scholars, A, B, C, and D, using your straight edge if you have one. You're drawing a rectangle. So my straight edge today is a rectangle, so I'm going to go ahead and just trace it. Do the best you can to make those straight lines. Okay. So I have point A, point B, point C, and point D. Okay, once you've copied that, go ahead and continue.
Is there a line segment in the rectangle that's parallel to segment AB?
Is there a line segment in the rectangle that's parallel to AB? Let's think back to our notes. What is a line segment? Exactly. A line segment has two endpoints. Okay, and they're two lines that both sides stop. They don't continue on forever. So we have line AB here. This is line AB. Is there a line segment that's parallel to AB? Two lines that never touch side by side, the same distance apart. Well, as I look across from my rectangle, I notice that line CD, or DC, however you want to write it, is parallel. So I'm going to put the symbol here of two lines for parallel. Let me zoom in on that really quick so you can see that. So I'm saying that AB, line AB, is parallel to line DC. They are the same distance apart. They are two lines that if they were to continue on would never touch, and they are side by side. So I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to write that D, I'm going to drag it in. Line DC is parallel to AB. Great work.
Lucas, do you see a segment that's parallel to AB?
Yes. Segment CD.
Let's check to make sure the segments are parallel. I can measure the distance between segment AB and CD at each endpoint and make sure they're the same. It's 5 inches from point A to point B and 5 inches from point B to point C. So we know segment AB is parallel to segment CD. Use this symbol to record another parallel pair of line segments in the rectangle.
So let's take a look at the scholars first together in our notes, and then we'll continue on Zearn. We're looking for two more sets of line in this rectangle that are parallel. Well, as I take a look here, I notice that AD is another line. It has two endpoints, AD. I also see line BC. And to tell that they're parallel, that they are two lines that never touch, side by side, and they're the same distance apart, you could use a ruler or you could look at it and measure with your fingers. I'm going to use the parallel line symbols to say that line AD is parallel to line BC. Let's plug that into Zearn. AD is parallel to BC. Great.
What do you notice about sides of a rectangle and parallel lines?
I noticed that as we looked at our rectangle, we have two pairs of parallel lines. So let's fill in this statement. Opposite sides of the rectangle are parallel. Nice work.
What's another pair of parallel line segments in this rectangle?
AD and BC.
That's right. This is how we'll write that these segments are parallel. What do you notice about opposite sides of a rectangle in parallel line segments?
Opposite sides of a rectangle are parallel.
That's right. Is this true for all rectangles?
So do I think this is true for all rectangles? Well, all rectangles have two sets of lines, as I can see here on the screen. One pair of parallel lines, two, one pair of parallel lines, and two. So yes, I'm going to say it's true for all rectangles. Great work.
Lucas, does the size of the rectangle determine whether or not its opposite sides have parallel lines?
No. Opposite sides of all rectangles are parallel.
That's right. Nice thinking. Let's practice drawing more parallel lines.
Great. So let's first use our straight edge to draw the horizontal line XY. So on your boards, work with me. We're going to plot two lines, X and Y.
Here's my line XY. To create a line parallel to this, I'll measure 3 inches down from point X and 3 inches down from point Y. Then I'll use my ruler to connect them. Now you give it a shot.
So scholars, if you have a ruler, great. If not, go ahead and just draw lines that look about the same distance apart. Use your straight edge to connect those 2 points and to make your next set of lines. And let's label them S, T.
Sophie, how did your line end up looking?
Like this. I labeled it ST, and I used the parallel symbol like this to show that line XY is parallel to line ST.
Really awesome stuff, guys. You can also draw arrowheads on each parallel line like this to signify that these 2 lines are parallel.
Great. So scholars, as our Zearn teacher just taught us, to show that 2 lines are parallel, we have 2 ways to write this. We can use parallel lines and make that bigger. We can say XY, line XY is parallel to line ST. And the symbol in the middle, looking like a set of roads or train tracks, is our parallel symbol. Or we can put these arrows on each line to show that they are parallel, side by side, that they will never touch, and that they are the same distance apart. Let's continue Zearning.
Today we practice spotting and drawing a lot of parallel lines. We're going to keep practicing those lines in the Tower of Power.
Great job Zearning it, scholars. Well done. Please click love it if you loved this lesson. Make sure you Zearned this lesson in Zearn today. Then you have the option of doing the bonus or diving into the problem set in your Learn Notes. Have a great day, Zearners, and I can't wait to read those exit tickets. Bye-bye.